Each month in 2020 at our AgilePDX Puppet events, we have taken one of the 12 Agile principles and explored what they mean for our work today inside and outside of software. In August, we explored the 8th Agile principle. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Our session host, Roland Erickson, kicked us off by sharing his experience helping Nike Technology adopt Agile principles with sustainability.
6 years I worked for the state of Nevada. I was what they call a performance auditor. I wasn't one of those kind of scary type of individuals, but we were focused in on doing performance audits or process improvements within the state of Nevada and those executive agencies. So worked with Department of Corrections, Department of Employment, a variety of organizations. I really became keen on the data of these organizations. And so I was able to learn a little bit of SQL enough to be dangerous. So I became a data analyst out at Nike for the sales team. And so from there, really transitioned to a BSA role, right? Kind of that in between of the business and technology. And that was a lot of fun because we were just implementing Agile as we were going out and delivering a sales platform for just kind of a single source for all the sales teams to be able to do some business planning. From there, I transitioned over to the finance team, which was very much a waterfall approach on how we deliver software. And then slowly but surely, right, the Agile tidal wave overtook that waterfall. And I was able to join up and take part in the Agile transformation within the finance department. And then I became a product manager within what we call the enterprise data and analytics group. So took that passion for data, became a product manager. And then knowing that data, is a pain point and also an asset for our business partners, I had an opportunity to join as a process manager over on the business side. So I've been doing that for the last 2 years because I feel like, man, if we have good processes, maybe we'll have good data as a result. That's always kind of the hope and the prayer a little bit. So I've been doing that and trying my darndest to really influence the business to really not use Agile as a buzzword, but really as a methodology for us being able to actually deliver business results on the business side. It's just not for technology teams to deliver. So been doing that for the last 2 years. So just super excited that I get to learn from all of you tonight for sure. That's me in a nutshell. Neil, do you want me to take over?
Yeah, if you're ready to share your screen and start your presentation, that'd be great.
Okay. That's awesome. And I don't know, and you are recording, just so everyone knows that we're recording the presentation. Okay. Well, right, this is the Puppet series. I guess previous downtown, we'd meet up and we'd meet at the office at Puppet and there would be free pizza. So that was the big draw. So unfortunately, right, we've all been to virtual happy hours. If we eat some virtual pizza right now, it'd probably taste like nothing. So we're not going to go there. Oh, nice, Neil. He's got a drink. That's good. But I hope tonight in our focus on the 8th principle of the Agile Manifesto will be beneficial to everybody that's here. And so we'll kind of walk through what some of the goals are. But first, as we start, I wanted to ask a question. What do rabbits and the 8th principle of Agile have to deal with? And just a refresher really fast, the 8th principle of the Agile Manifesto is Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace in terms of indefinitely. So I'll say that one more time and not try to just, yeah, I'll just read it. It says, Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. So what do rabbits and that 8th principle of Agile have to deal with each other?
Constant production.
What?
Constant production.
Constant production. Okay, yeah, I could see that for sure. Good. Any other ideas from the team?
That Energizer Bunny's been pounding that drum for a long time.
Yeah, very true, absolutely.
Fast and steady wins the race.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes that rabbit would get too far out. Yeah. Fast and steady wins the race. There's definitely that connection. Okay, well, this is my response on how rabbits and this eighth principle of Agile go so well together. Maybe this is me being drinking a little too deeply of the Nike Kool-Aid, but it goes, rabbit is a term or for what's formerly called a pacemaker or pace setter, right? And these people's responsibility are to set the pace for like an elite runner. And really what they're trying to do is to make sure that that runner can maintain that certain pace so that he or she can win the race. In addition, they also provide some drafting so that runner doesn't get burnout or too tired within the race. So this picture right here is Ilya Kopchegi when he broke the 2-hour barrier for the marathon. So I think he had a team of over 21 rabbits in terms of how they broke the wind for him, and they really helped him maintain that steady pace. With these runners, if you look closely at this picture, they're also looking down at the ground. They had actually a laser in front of that, so that helped him keep his pace as well. And so they always had it. If you wanted to have it under 2 hours, you have to be a certain distance from this laser line out in front of us. So again, slow and steady wins the race. That to maintain that constant pace indefinitely. So for sure. So that's how rabbits and Agile principles come together, that Agile principle. Really have we're going to execute a very quick sprint. It's going to be about an hour, maybe an hour and 15, and have some goals set aside. Really, I want us to learn more about the 8th principle of Agile and how to implement it. In addition, sure would love to at least have 1 or 2 aha moments where we've actually learned something, or you say, aha, I could help out Darren. I know Darren's just starting out with his Agile journey, and I know we could help him out with this, or Moss, if you want to contribute something as well, right? Love for us to really have a very collaborative experience as we talk through this. All righty. So this is going to be a little bit of our backlog that we're going to work through. So what I want to do is have a little bit of a warm-up session. We'll start that in a bit, but we're going to do some collaboration and review in terms of the other Agile Manifesto values and principles, and also come up with some good collaborative ideas. We're going to define the Agile principle in our own words, and we're going to talk about Principle 8's opportunities, or sometimes we call them challenges as well. But very much so, I'm open to adding anything more. Like, you all are taking your time at the end of the day. I don't know who wins the prize for the most Zoom meetings today. And what's the show of hand? Like 2, 3, 5, just the 3. Okay. Moss up 2.
1.
Darren, how about you? Where are you at? How many Zoom meetings? 5, 7. So you're taking.
I had a 6-hour meeting.
What?
Does that count? I had a 6-hour meeting. It wasn't on Zoom though.
Oh, wow. I think you get the brass button, not the gold star. But I really do appreciate you all taking the time to be here. Is there anything else that you feel like we should discuss when it comes to the 8th principle? Something that maybe you feel like that may not be covered in terms of like just this initial component? Okay, we're feeling pretty good. Awesome. Okay, so what I want us to do is to go back and take a look at, we're going to do a quick little warm-up exercise first. I enjoy fun. I think having fun at work is a great way to rejuvenate and to just have a little bit more of a relaxed environment. And so from my side, what we're going to do, we're going to play a silly Zoom game. So I'm not going to give you 2 minutes to go find your craziest hat, because I think Darren's going to win, because it looks like he has some cool stuff back there. But have you guys played the ball game before with Zoom? Okay.
No.
This will be a good time. This will be a really good time. And so how we play the game is that I'm going to pass the ball to somebody on the call. So if you have it up on gallery view, so I'm going to hold the ball and I'm going to make a sound, and I'm going to say like zip, zip, zip. And I'm going to pass it to Moss. Then Moss has to catch it, but he has to say zip, zip, zip. And then he has to pass it to someone else on the Zoom call, but you have to make a different sound. That's the deal. And so, but you have to call that person's name so they know who's catching the ball. And then what you have to do is everyone has their hands up, And once you catch the ball, then you drop your hands, right? Once you pass the ball off to somebody, so then you just don't get a pass back to you. So, all right, I'll lead us out. I'll go bang, 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 Michael Williams.
Oh my goodness, Jeff. Oh, I'm supposed to say bang, bang, bang first. See, I already failed. Bang, bang, bang. Oh my goodness, Jeff.
Bang, bang, bang. Oh my goodness. Ooh, Moss.
Bang, bang, bang. Oh my goodness. Oh, what was the forgot? And Kablawi, Neil.
Oh, Kablawi.
Bang, bang, bang. Oh my goodness, Kablawi. Darren.
Gotta add your own.
Bang, bang, bang. Oh my goodness. Kablawi. Poof. Roland.
Nice. Cool. I caught it. I don't know if I could repeat everything. So awesome. Hey, thanks everyone I think this is just, it's a fun way to say everyone's name and get everyone talking. So next thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to combine these two. Let's go through, Jeff, you talked about being sequestered in your home. And so I know everyone else has been that same way. So we have to, share a little bit, maybe to ease the pain for everybody. What is your quarantine either must watch if you're streaming something, if you're reading a cool book, a cool article, or if you're listening to an awesome podcast, share that. And then also share a quick bio, like where do you sit? Are you on the business side? Are you on the tech side? Are you doing both? What your current position is, and what are some of your Agile goals as well?
I'm a retired software developer, an old XP guy telling all these Agile people to get off my lawn.
Nice.
I love Winter Garden Wednesdays. A musician who built a big marble machine to do music with, and he's now been rebuilding it for the last 5 years. So it's a big, insanely complicated thing. He does these lovely videos every Wednesday about what he's working on.
That's cool. What's it called again? I want to write that down. Liquor Garden?
Winter Garden.
Oh.
WINTERGATEN. And like, remember, finish for the Milky Way or something?
Okay. Interesting. That's cool. All right. Michael, you want to go next?
Sure thing. So, Michael Williams, my official title is still project manager. Again, as project managers, we kind of bridge the gap between the business side and the doing side, the team side. So, I work for Itron here out of Liberty Lake, Washington, and my role was based in New Orleans, Louisiana. So we are selling our Itron's product to the utility based in New Orleans. And so there's lots of other people involved: IBM, Siemens, PricewaterhouseCoopers. Everybody has their own flavor of Agile. Everybody has their own ideas about what Agile is and what a sprint is, and it's very interesting to sit in those meetings where all the vendors and all the technical people have to work together and figure out how to deliver on a fairly regular basis. And we're talking quarters here for releases, and we don't get into the 2-week sprints and pushing code every 2 to 4 weeks, but we're close, and so my role is again way down the ladder. I'm not changing anybody's mind at IBM or Siemens or Entergy about how they should be doing Agile, but we certainly all talk about it quite a bit. So it's a good environment.
Sure. Are you herding cats a little bit on your side?
Am I doing what?
Herding cats between those 3 enterprises?
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
A lot of that going on. It's amazing we get anything done.
That's good. Nice. Darren.
Yeah, hey, so my name is Darren Oda. I'm on the business side, and I work for a .com e-commerce shopping site. Your hopefully you see this too, your main competitor, Roland, at Adidas.
Oh, all good.
So yeah, I'm on the business side. I'm kind of what they call the optimization team. And like I said, we don't do any of the product development. But I work very closely with the product managers and the developers who sit central team in Amsterdam. So I'm essentially a stakeholder if you're thinking Agile framework. I'm requesting things, hopefully trying to provide use cases and insights to the team to inform the roadmaps and just generally be a pest. Um, but yeah, so I'm just here because I want to understand how you guys work, and how I can apply that to things I do on a day-to-day, but also be a better partner for the product managers. So recommendation to binge is so I just recently watched Umbrella Academy. I watched it all, so season 2 in all of one day. So yeah, it's a great show. Yeah.
Good deal. Hey, Michael, did we miss your binge recommendation? I forgot. Sorry if I cut you off too early.
So my binge is actually picking up and relearning all the stringed instruments that I have in my house. So I get lots more practice time. I don't watch a lot of TV or shows or things. So, and my kids, however, are hooked on British baking shows. So I sit and watch a lot of those. They're amazing fun.
Yeah.
No drama. Just a lot less drama than like the Iron Chef and all that made up drama. Of course, there's a little bit of made up drama, but it's much less than the American shows. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Yeah. My favorite adjective that I've learned from that show is scrummy. That is just absolutely scrummy. So anyways,
scrummy, yes.
Good deal. Moss, let's hear from you.
Hi, I'm Moss. I've been a developer / project leader / scrum master for a long time. And I worked for an insurance company subsidiary that did software for dental offices. So I'm interested in doing health and insurance sort of stuff. But recently, like this year, before the pandemic, I decided to take a self-imposed sabbatical and just quit and do something else for a little bit and see if I could apply some Agile goals more towards my life. And surprisingly enough, so did everybody else decide to quit, I guess. So that was surprising. And so this year I'm spending time, usually I'm a software guy, but I'm working on hardware. My dad has a bunch of old cars from the 50s and earlier, and I'm working to help him get those all running as he gets older. He can't work on those so much. My Agile goal for today, I wanted to learn more about what you thought of sustainability. And I know that in the past, it's different for each person, but since I've been working basically as myself being the boss, it's really hard to differentiate between what I want to work on and the rest of the day. It's like you got to make time for yourself. And let's see, my binge. I've been watching Psych and the Umbrella Academy, but I also my thing that I'm stuck on is the Thursday New York Times crossword puzzle every Thursday. It's a little bit tricky one, so that's kind of how I'm tracking time.
Nice.
Thank you, Neil.
So my name is Neil Peterson, and I'm currently serving as a project manager in an organization that is attempting to transform itself from a traditional waterfall culture to being more agile in the way they operate as a business, as well as in their IT department. And I am managing 3 IT implementation projects.
Right.
My binge is gardening.
Nice.
When every chance I get, I try to get out and do things in my garden. And See, so far this year, I have already harvested enough berries to make 24 cups of seedless black raspberry jam
Wow.
and have fresh raspberries every morning for breakfast.
Oh, that's terrific. That's very
And
cool.
my Agile goals are to help the company that I'm working for become more Agile and to help the community become more Agile by being a committee member on the AgilePDX organization.
Nice. Great. Cool. I love that we have a variety of experience coming from software development to XP to process. Like this is awesome. And Darren, you coming and joining this, like together, I think we're all going to learn. And Moss, interesting experience. So do you sit down with your business sponsor, your pops, and set some goals for the week? And say, hey, what are we going to
No,
do?
I should do like a sprint planning session. We kind of just kind of wing it. Like, you know, these are our two most valuable things to work on, and that so we work on those things, but we don't set any sprint goals. I should do a iteration there and see how that goes.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know from my side, trying to implement Agile on the business side, I kind of had to use different terminology. For whatever reason, there was a lot of pushback if I used anything Agile, like a stand-up or a retrospective. I just had to call them different things for the business to start like accepting, like, oh, let's just have a collaboration meeting. Oh, okay. You know, but a retrospective, like what are we doing there? So have to definitely put it in some speak that people can understand. That's good. Hey, Darren, question for you. Are there some things that are mystifying as you're working with this development team that maybe as we go through the course of this discussion that maybe we could help demystify for you? Because is there a lot of new terminology that you're not hearing or you're hearing for the first time?
I guess what'd be interesting is you know what goes into a sprint. What are you? I think it's managed differently depending on the organization and who the product manager is, right? But like, what are you using to size and fit into sprints? You know, do you guys have a preferred method? Do you guys have a framework? What's worked best for you in the past? So curious to hear that. I have all my requests constantly being like pushed out from sprint to sprint to sprint. So also curious about how that all works for you guys as well.
Good deal. Well, I think one component of this Agile principle that I really like is it actually talks about roles of people, right? It talks about that it should be a sustainable pace for both the sponsors. So Darren, you kind of as that sponsor, and for developers and for the users. Maybe you're a little bit of that, both that user and that sponsor. So I think it definitely calls out and highlights the need to make sure that everyone's involved in the process and how we develop things. You know, just not like, hey, let's hand this off to the development team and what's going on. Like, let's really try to understand better of the process and what we could do to be more transparent. So this is good. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for taking the time. In talking with people that have attended this event in the past, a big win of going downtown to the Puppet Series, besides the free pizza, was just the ability to network and learn a little bit more of everybody's experience that was in that room. So just taking the time right now, hopefully is beneficial, you know, that we could kind of continue to share throughout. Wanted to open up for a little bit of a collaboration time. And so I've created a Padlet, and so I'm going to send out a link to this, and I'll walk us through really what the expectation is. Let me just grab this here. I'll just send this out to the team. Give me one sec. I'll just stop my sharing there.
So how many people saw the link and tried to click it on Roland's screen?
Nice, Jeff. Good. Oh, I wish I was that interactive. That would be good. Okay, there we go. Oh, did we have a new person who joined? Is this Alex K here?
Yeah, Alex is in the background here.
Okay. Alex, did you want to take a little bit of time to maybe introduce yourself as well?
You're on mute, Alex, if you're talking.
Okay. Well, I do see that he did send a message out to everyone. So Alex, maybe if you can just jump in. He just says that he's on the tech side. operations and keep the operations team's work even and less stressful. So that's good. Okay. Oh, and Neil, thank you for sending that out to everyone. So let me just explain really what this Padlet looks like and how we're going to use it. Give me one sec. So this Padlet should look something like, let me just move this out of the way. And then, so do you see it here?
Yep.
So with this, what I did is I laid out the Agile Manifesto values. So right within the manifesto, there's 4 different values. And then within each of the principle, there's 12. And so what I felt like as we think about sustainable development and able to maintain that constant pace, can we go back and review a little bit these values and the principles and kind of rate them, saying, hey, these are the principles that really can contribute to, like at a high amount in terms of helping us deliver things at a sustainable pace or sustainable development. So what I'd love is to hone and to harness our Amazon rating skills. So here you can see that you're able to come here and you're able to rate things like 1 through 5. And so what I want you to do, 5 being that like, hey, this first one right here, like for example, individuals and interactions over tools and processes, like that for sure contributes to sustainable development. Or if you think it doesn't, or maybe that somehow comes into conflict with it, you know, mark it as a 1-star, mark it as a 3-star, wherever you feel. And then what I'd love to hear as well, and what I'm opening up for you guys to share as well, is to add some ideas here of some things that you have felt and that you've experienced in your life that have actually led to a better pace or more sustainable development on your side. Like for example, I'm going to add one. I love team lunches. For me, like team lunches are a great way to like not only celebrate the wins, but allow the team to have some rest and relaxation and not just be in that grind at the office. I know it's hard to do today, but like for me previously going out with my team at lunch, like that was a great way to help us have more sustainable development, you know, and we would try to do that on a regular basis, whether that was, you know, some wins or we had hard times. We just try to do that all the time. Team breakfast. I like where people are going, and rate these ideas as well. And we'll come back through and we'll talk about them. So I'll give you guys just about 5 minutes to go through the values and the principles and to rate them, and we'll keep going from there in about 5 minutes.
Kind of looks like ratings are
What are you seeing, Neil?
just trying to figure out how the Padlet is working. It looks like ratings are filling in, and I'm trying to figure out how to add my own.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, it's pretty rad that it's going to average all of our ratings together.
And so you were saying the rating is how tightly integrated it is with the principle?
How well like that principle or that value contributes to sustainable development or helps contribute to having that pace that we could really set for the team. Because honestly, as I went back through, as I was trying to prepare for this, I saw some things I was like, I don't know if this really helps. Like the change in requirements, like that to me, I was like, yeah, I don't think that really helps with sustainable development at times, you know, if it's not done in the right way. So that's what I kind of want to highlight, some areas where we feel like, why is this a pain point? Why doesn't this idea or this principle or value, why does it not help? Or why do these ones help with it? And by the way, no one's going to get paid or no one's going to get any free swag because they rated something a certain way. So just be honest, right? I always get frustrated when I look at Amazon. I'm like, and I received a free hammock by rating it a 5-star. I was like, tell me what you really think.
Nothing wrong with a free hammock.
Oh, I love that we're adding ideas. This is awesome. Yeah, and feel free rate our peers' ideas as well. If we feel like, man, yeah, that's a winner. I may need some help with sin-fin exercises, though.
Kneffin.
What?
Kneffin.
Kneffin. Yeah, Kneffin. Yeah, however you pronounce it. That's the.
It's a Welsh word.
That's the exercise where you get out of your reps, right? Your team is working well together. Everybody's got their ideas, and you typically don't provide any innovation when you're dealing with ongoing software development, ongoing network engineering, ongoing support processes. So the Kneffin, what it does is it says, is there a different way to deal with this problem? And really takes, problem is not the right word, but really a situation. Is there really a different way? Is there something that we don't know that we think might be applicable? It's a way to get into the retrospective ideas on how to change things. That's a separate activity than the retrospective itself.
Yeah. Very cool. And have you found people to be adoptive of those type of exercises? Like, yeah, let's try something new. Let's break out of our rut.
In many situations, at the point where it becomes a pain point and we say we can't continue working the same way we've been working, but we don't know how to change it, that's where it works really well. Yeah.
Good to know. All right, I'm going to just give us one more minute to go over these things. I think, right? I know we don't have very many people on the call, so I think I've seen that most things are being rated. Did you guys see how to scroll down to the other ones? I know it's not as intuitive to kind of scroll on the right-hand side of the screen, but. Okay, well, let's go over these. And really, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over each individual one. It looks like we have some 4-star ratings for most of the values. Curious about this one. This one was not rated as high. Number 4, responding to change over following a plan. That's rated low. Help me understand that, guys. Like what's going on here that maybe is making that one a little bit low in terms of how this one doesn't really help with sustainable development.
Change can go ahead.
Change can provide a detriment to the ability to have a sustainable pace and constant delivery if it's too high. And some teams get wrapped around the axle on this one of responding to change always, as opposed to delivering small, valuable pieces of work. And so there's a balance that has to be found. So I rated this a 3 personally.
I rated this one low as well. Or did I? I don't remember.
If you click on it, you can see again.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, 3. I rated it a 3. I think it's not, the teams are not really the initial responders to change, right? It's the product owner and the scrum master who really kind of catch the changes. The teams themselves are working at a constant pace. So what happens is the backlog kind of changes up, and the team kind of has to adjust to the new items in the next sprint. And so that can be disconcerting sometimes. But if done right, I don't think that really bothers the team one way or the other. That's why I kind of mid-graded that one. That's my thought on that.
Okay.
When you have a consistent plan, a consistent speed is easy. When your plan is changing, you can still maintain that consistent speed, but it takes work.
Is that because, oh, go ahead.
A long time ago, when I first heard about Agile, I tried to respond to change over following a plan. And our business people were changing like every 2 days. It was like, no, this isn't working. There's too much change. Then I learned about Scrum, and I learned about fixed iterations. And I think as long as the team can negotiate a safe fixed iteration, like if they're used to changing every 2 days, maybe they can deliver something in a couple of hours, then that's okay. But if it takes them 2 weeks to deliver something, then changing every couple of days just drives them crazy. So you kind of have to have a balance between change and a safety zone, you know? So that's, I rated it a 4, but I also added in the collaboration space about negotiate your fixed iteration.
No doubt. And I like that you called out that product owner and the scrum master. One of the things that I was doing some research and things that I saw on my team, when we became unsustainable or where we saw warning signs, is that we couldn't complete what we committed to, right? And that was like, okay, if we're not keeping our commitments, what's going on? And so we were able to drill down through retrospectives, and we saw, you know, what's happening is that we allow for scope creep during that sprint because we're allowing that change to just kind of filter in and say, hey, can we tackle this as well? Right. And that change and that context switching from, hey, we established some goals at the beginning. Now, halfway through a weekend, now we're going to start changing. Like that doesn't lead towards sustainable development for sure. There should be that buffer and that reprioritization. And I'm with you all. Like if it's done right and the backlog has been refined, there shouldn't be that much disruption unless it's like a full sail shift between whatever, you know, what was requested in the past towards like what the teams needs to deliver on in the future. No, absolutely. No, yeah, absolutely. And thank you for, you know, kind of calling that out, because Agile does have this promise to respond to change, but it needs to be a negotiation, like you guys are calling out. Like it needs to be something that's going to be, if you want that to go in, then we need to take something out, kind of that brick in, brick out mentality, or else, you know, it's just going to not be able to be picked up or done well. If we need to also keep our commitments and these new commitments that we're going to throw in here for that current sprint. That's really good. Is there one of these that like I'm seeing high ratings for individuals' interactions over processes and tools? Looks like we have 6 people who rated this high: customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Why was this one rated high when it comes to sustainable development?
From my perspective, having the customer involved in the process, they not only get a better understanding of what's going on, but they also get a better understanding of some of the pains that they can inflict on development teams. If they're asking for example, 2 different things that they want it simple and they want it complex at the same time, for example, they suddenly realize when you present to them, it's like, okay, well, you're asking for 1 button, but then you want 20 different options to set here, you know, which way works better? And then you can work with them and say, okay, you really just need these main 3 things, you know, you don't need 20 buttons, 20 settings.
Right.
That's why I rated that as a sustainability thing. You know, it's the more the customer understands your pain, the more that it helps them prioritize what's really useful.
And not only on the pain side, but on the capability side. Once you understand what each other's capabilities are, once you understand what the customer is actually saying when they make a request, and once the customer understands what technical capabilities can actually be produced in the software ongoing, then that growth of that relationship makes everybody, it makes the customers able to ask more succinctly and more directly what they're looking for, and it makes the software team able to respond to them and say yes or no, or that's going to take 4 sprints and not 2, right? And then everybody understands each other. It makes that sustainability continue.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a TED Talk that talks about trust, right? And having that trust between what's been requested either from the business or another technology teams to that actual team that's doing the work. It's super important. So it talks about the trust triangle and what's needed in that trust triangle. You need to be empathetic, right? And so seeing, what that person's asking for, that's helpful. And then there's logic, right? There's good rationale that's clearly understood on both sides as we're trying to do that contract negotiation type of component. And I'm trying to remember the last one. I'm for the life of me, look it up, great TED Talk. It's at the top of the pyramid, but it's empathy, logic, and then one other point. But that it talks really about trust, and for sure that's what helps with sustainable development. What's interesting is we found, and Darren, this is going to be a call out for you, kind of being that liaison between tech, is that we found that we missed out on that interaction with customers when business folks weren't coming to demos. Like there's something powerful about seeing and sitting in the same room. Now it's over a Zoom call, but seeing people's reactions, hearing firsthand from the business to that development team, and just conversely, that development team's able to kind of talk through that complexity or whatever that they just delivered. And so it's just such a good relationship, and that customer collaboration for sure, I think really does breed an environment of a good positive culture towards building out that sustainable development for sure. That's great.
Yeah, as a customer, I guess in the traditional sense, I rated this one quite high because yeah, exactly. When we collaborate closely with the product managers on our requests, and they're able to kind of walk us through step by step how they got there, those are I guess more appreciated, more widely accepted. There's less shock and surprise. I think what's interesting is a lot of times they ask us for problem statements and not feature requests. I wonder if you guys have heard this or dealt with this before, because that kind of changes the relationship a little bit too. It's like you're trusting them to solve the problem for you, but I think along the way you kind of need to provide additional context as ideas are getting fleshed out, as discovery is being done, right? So yeah, I value this above all else, even though I'm kind of a outside looking in, but just my observations whenever we're engaged, whenever we're asked for our opinions, the result is often far better.
Yeah. Darren, were you highlighting a conflict that you had in terms of like the technology team is asking for, like they used to ask for feature statements, now they're asking for problem statements? And is there a desire that you'd prefer? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I think from a user, from a business user's point of view, we often jump straight to the conclusion. We see this feature on another website and we say, I want that, go make that. And that is problematic, I think. I want to know what you guys think, but it's not factoring in the site architecture, the tools that we have, not taking those things into account. It's also not taking into account, like, is this the right solution? Mm-hmm. So I guess the way I was kind of trying to frame it was problem statements, submitting those, and then working through from the beginning. This is the problem, and then as we're fleshing out the problem, collaborating on a solution together is, I think, better than submitting the feature request and saying go make this, and it might end up turning out not how you wanted it in the beginning.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Insights from the team. What do y'all think for Darren?
I think utilizing the problem statement is one way that I've seen teams overcome the challenge of telling somebody what to do, as opposed to getting them into a collaborative mindset of let's work together to solve this problem. And that's a key part of teaming, is getting team engagement and collaboration going. And that is definitely a way that I've seen it work well. So I'm glad to see somebody's applying some of that in your situation, working to collaborate with you more. It sounds like it's being a more positive experience for you, which is good. Anybody else?
Problem statements are generally better than feature requests. That is a true statement.
Go ahead.
Done.
The most brain dead feature request that I ever had, the guy said, okay, all I need is a button in the software that says 3D, and I'll be able to sell 20 3D scanners in the month. And it's like, well, what is it actually? What's the business statement here? He's like, that's all I need. I just need that button. So, I mean, because it took actually less than a day to develop, we did it for him, and he didn't ever sell any scanners, and he wasn't actually at the company in a little over 2 months. But the button, as far as I know, might still be in the software. It was configurable, and we turned it on and showed it, and it never sold anything. And then I think we turned it off later. So when you have a solution without a problem, you don't actually end up solving your problem. You just end up solving the solution, which doesn't really help anybody.
Michael, you want to say something? Were you going to say something? Sorry.
Nope.
Yeah, I think from my experience, every development team that I've been on, they for sure want to be sitting in a conference room, being up at a whiteboard, or now probably over Zoom, and sitting with the business and collaborating on it together. I don't think there's ever been an incident. I mean, I don't know. Would you ever all see in a time where a development team may not want to sit with the business and collaborate on things? Have you ever had that on your side? Nope.
I've certainly had times where I wanted to talk about a problem with the team without the customer in the room.
Yeah.
Usually because we're going to unearth some really nasty piece of code.
Yep.
That we need to talk honestly about, but with a customer relationship, things can get weird.
Yeah.
The customer being there does change the conversation, usually for the better, but not always for the better.
Sure. And I think similarly, coming from the business side, we don't always have our ducks in the row either. So we kind of want to have our conversations on the side, make sure that we're doing the right thing, and then having that. I mean, maybe we can't have all day sessions, but there is definite need for better collaboration across the teams, and for sure that leads to better development. Okay, well, let's keep trucking on it because I do want to get to this innovation space that we called out. Just want to see which one was the lowest one we rated. Oof, man, come on, Agile Manifesto, you're not helping us here. Ooh, 3-star. Okay, I think that could be our biggest loser right here. All righty. Yeah, so let's go back up to number 3 and talk about this one. Deliver, oh wait, nope, I was wrong where I said that. Where did that go?
Number 2.
Number 2, thank you. Welcome changing requirements even late in development. Is that a developer's nightmare? Yeah.
So again, depending on how you manage your sprints and how good your product owner is, late changing requirements just get tacked on to the backlog, right? As long as you're not changing or overriding things that you've already done in the software already, and making frustrated developers, I don't think that's necessarily a hindrance to a constant flow of work, right? You're still going to do 16 T-shirts or 22 rock sizes or whatever it is that you've decided to cut your sprints into every sprint. You're still going to deliver that number of items, no matter what they are, right? So the changing requirements, remember, is not the team output, right? It's kind of governed by the team itself, and the changing requirements should be handled by the product owner first and the Scrum Master in collaboration with the team to just say, we thought we were down to only 10 sprint items, and that we now have 20 or 25. The rate isn't going to change because there's more work, right? Mm-hmm. The rate should stay constant. So that's my thought on that. If you're thinking about a finished product, it's certainly going to change the time of a finished product, but that's not what that's not what the Principle 8 says. Principle 8 just says we can continue at a constant pace throughout the life of the team or the life of the project. Excuse me.
Sure.
How do you guys have a question? How do you guys, I guess within this group, Michael, it totally makes sense what you just said, right? Finite resources. You got to sacrifice something if you want something else put in. How do you guys deal with explaining that to stakeholders? And what's the best way of communicating that or framing that up, or being a little bit?
That is the eternal Agile question, right? The accountant wants to know, right, what it's going to take, and the product owner should be the one, and product owner and project manager have kind of parallel roles, and they overlap a lot. So I have to know how all the Agile teams work, how they're breaking down their backlogs to give a valid estimate. It's going to take us 9 months to finish this project with all the current requirements, right? Every change, if it's already been coded, the change gets added on to that. So we need another sprint to finish a change, or 2 sprints, or whatever the team says is going to be done. If it hasn't been coded yet, we can trade out a requirement for a new requirement with essentially without any impact to the timeline. That is Agile doesn't do that well. That is somebody from the business who has to interpret what Agile is saying and say, either there is an impact to the timeline, that original 9-month estimate, or there's no impact to the 9-month estimate, or there's a money or a budgetary change to those things as well. Those are some of the hardest conversations to have, and they almost have nothing to do with Agile. They have everything to do with MBAs and middle management saying, I gave you a time and a budget, why didn't you finish in time, or why can't you finish faster? Why can't you make the sprint team go faster, right? That's not the project manager's job, that's the team's job. And they have set their constant pace, and they're going to keep it. And that is, again, that is the holy grail of Agile. If you can make those middle managers and upper management understand those terms and how it actually works, that is when you get those Agile transformation companies that take off. So you have a lot of work ahead of you.
Nice, I appreciate that.
I think of the changing requirements in late development in 2 different ways. There's the late in the sprint and late in the project. And the changing requirements late in the sprint, like let's pretend you have a 2-week iteration and it goes from Monday of week 1 to Friday of week 2, and somebody comes in on Friday morning and has a great idea and they want to change things, I'd welcome those changes, especially if it helps to improve the product. But you still have to be able to, design, implement, and test those things. And so it's, a question of whether you can do that from Friday morning to Friday evening. If you have very clear regression tests, maybe you can do that, but maybe you'll have to put it off until the next sprint. If you're talking about, let's say that you're working on a 6-month project and you have something happening at the beginning of the project and then it needs to change 5 or 6 months into the project, that's because you're learning. And again, like Michael was saying, it's you don't know that at the beginning of the project. You just learned it later, 5 or 6 months in, and you have to explain how to take something off your plate in order to put something else on. The link I posted in chat is more about the sprint time box rather than the project time box. But it's one way to visualize. Planning origami is a way to visualize how much work fits into a sprint.
Well, thank you for that link.
Or late in a sprint, a major changes come in. Yeah. This story that we've been working on all sprint is no longer useful. Do not ship it. Pulling that out.
Yeah. Most Agile aficionados would say, finish the sprint. Don't change anything in the middle of the sprint.
Yeah. That's kind of changing a button code from green, no problem. That's easy. Almost anything more complicated than that gets almost exponentially harder.
Yeah, I'm thinking about when you get a better understanding of the solution that you're working on, like you're working on a current story and all of a sudden you realize, oh, this is better. And then you can change that within the scope of the story. But that doesn't always happen.
Sometimes I've had to take a hard line of, we're committed to what we said at the beginning of the sprint. That means even if customer changes during the sprint, that doesn't change our commitment at all. We've already decided. And then if the customer wants something, they can request it. We can talk about it. Often it happens. So it's the development team's choice to decide whether to accept that change mid-sprint.
Yeah, I'm going to just fast forward just a few slides because I think what we're talking about is pretty relevant to, right? Tell me if you all have seen kind of this paradigm shift, that, right? The traditional project management, right? We have that fixed scope, and then we have the estimated cost and estimated time. And right, that's what we could kind of flex and pull. And, can we throw more money at the problem? Do we need to add a quarter to the work or just a couple more weeks? Like with Agile, that kind of shifts on its head, whereas like what's different. And so to answer your question, at least from my side and how I've done it, is I've talked about business value, like, because that's how we rate ourselves, from at least how we did from an Agile side. Are we releasing highest business value components every single sprint? And so if that discussion comes in and say, hey, I need to make a change, it's a trade-off discussion of saying, is this a higher business value of what we already have prioritized in our backlog in the current sprint? And then we could kind of flex and change if all of a sudden this late requirement that's coming is going to be something that's going to be beneficial or of a greater business value of something that we've already prioritized. So for me, what I found to be effective is really getting to a better understanding of what brings that highest business value to the organization. And that's hard to talk about because oftentimes we're dealing with cross-functional teams, right? And to have them align on what business value is, because Team X may rate it high, the other one may rate it medium. And so it's about really having those conversations to come to a consensus of what is that highest business value and does it make sense for us to roll that out. All right.
What are some of the tools that you use to determine business value, Roland?
Yeah, so we leveraged WSJF, that latest job, shortest job first, or whatever that refers to. We've also been we've set some objectives in terms of a template of, hey, if you go through and you mark how many users is this impacting, how often will this functionality be used, and some of those other components, we could come out with somewhat of an objective score, not just like, hey, what's the t-shirt size of this current, thing that you're asking for? Like, what's the business value? Oh, that's a high, medium, or low. So we try to make it more objective. But I think that criteria of what goes to it is dependent on the team and maybe that capability that you're delivering. I do want to go back because I felt like we all were sharing some really good ideas in terms of the innovation and collaboration space. It seems like food is a good way to help out with sustainable development. So how does that help? I mean, this is before even starting the day, so people are coming a little bit early. Help me understand that a little bit.
So my team, we have a IT PMO team of project managers, and we get together before we start the day and talk about the projects that we are all working on and where we have cross dependencies and things. And it just helps get the flow going and break down the barriers of, I have to walk over to your cube to talk to you about your project, as opposed to, well, we're sitting here enjoying a nice light breakfast, having a conversation about our projects and sharing with each other. Gets engagement.
Meal over Zoom a little bit? Do you all grab a breakfast burrito and start chowing that down?
We've been trying that, yeah. It's a little awkward to eat on video, but
sure.
Yeah.
I want to know more about this Welsh. I mean, I know we highlighted a little bit. Can you give me a concrete example of what you were calling?
In the chat, I shared a link to Liz Keogh's Cynefin for Everyone.
Okay.
I would definitely recommend reading through that. But Cynefin exercises help you determine the complexity of the problem that you're trying to solve, and
it helps define the not necessarily the uncertainty, but how how we're dealing with uncertainty. Right? Is uncertainty something we're avoiding because we don't want to tackle it and we can do something a different way, or is the uncertainty something that's outside of our scope and maybe we need to go learn a new development method to tackle a problem? Is the uncertainty due to, right? There's any number of ways, right? So you can explore the uncertainty, which is what Agile is excellent at, getting around the uncertainty of a project and chopping it down into bits and pieces. And so that's what that's all about, is kind of learning what you don't know, right? Those unknown unknowns in your development process, in your working process. What is it that you're avoiding because you don't know how to do it a different way? And it helps break through some of those barriers.
Yeah. I absolutely love that you showed that out and that we're talking about that, because right, it's those surprises that cause delays. Oh man, I wish we would have kind of uncovered that in the past, or so yeah, that's an excellent resource. Thanks. It's great. And I see this other one, leaders go home early. Man, of all the ones that were rated, this is number 3. I mean, 3 of you guys said 5-star on this. What's going on? Why is that so impactful when you see a leader walk out the door at 5?
I worked at a
because that's the example.
Team lead
right?
would, at 5 o'clock every day, make a show that he was going home, mention what plans he had, which never had anything to do with work, and walk out the door.
Yeah.
And very quickly, 10 minutes after that, everyone else is gone.
Yep.
He's very clearly saying, I am done working. I've done my bit for today. Now it's time for the rest of my life. Yep. And that is how you do things. You don't keep going for just 10 more minutes to try and get one more thing done.
Yep.
All the day, go home.
So how did that lead to sustainable development? How is that helpful for it?
People went home and had a life.
Sustainable pace doesn't happen at burnout pace.
That's right.
It also, that if you have somebody that will work at burnout pace and won't really realize it, if you can get them to leave at the same time as everybody else, they won't, you know, sometimes you have cowboy programmers that are ready to just, you know, write up a new feature at the drop of a hat, and they're there till 9 o'clock, and then you come in the next morning, it's like, this is not exactly what I wanted. And so now you have to deal with that on top of all the code that they did working really hard by themselves. So it makes it a little bit more sustainable if everybody can actually work together, and you don't have these weird things going off on tangents.
Yeah, it makes it sustainable because it's predictable. If you work 40 hours a week, if you show up at 8 and leave at 5 every day, right, and nobody asks you, because that's, again, part of the sprint, nobody's asking you to work overtime these last 3 days to put in 8 more items into the sprint, right? The sprint is set, and with your goals for the sprint are set, and if you don't deliver them, you don't deliver them, right? And that should be the agreement. There shouldn't be a variable work day to deal with the variances in work. You keep the schedule and you adjust your velocity accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a boss that, right, he was a workaholic. And so as I would walk out the door, he'd be like, where are you going? Like, what are you doing? It's 5:30. And right, sure enough, he would still be there till 7, 8 o'clock every night. And I'll say from a personal standpoint, it was demoralizing. Like, I didn't feel good about myself. It didn't make me want to come into work, you know? So having my manager kind of give me that harassment out the door, you know, contrast that with Jeff, to your boss, who was like, I'm going to go out and play cricket, man, tonight. Like, I'm going to do something totally out in left field. I mean, that's awesome. And that's a way to refresh for sure and come back. Yep. That's
I had
great.
another boss did it the other way.
Okay.
At around 8 o'clock, you would walk around the floor, count how many people are there, and basically ask, are you planning on working? If so, I'll order a pizza or two, and to keep everybody fed.
Okay.
And then when he did it, almost 90% of people would say, no, I'm finishing, I'm heading home.
Okay.
And they would use that as the signal of, you're working too much, go home.
Oh,
Except he rarely bought pizza.
interesting.
But when he did, it was usually because there was some legitimate fire burning.
Yep.
And they need somebody to bring some damn food.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, in a podcast that I was listening to, they talked about, you know what? Sometimes we do have to work overtime, but you never work 2 weeks in a row of overtime. Like, that productivity scale goes way down if you're working 60 hours 2 weeks in a row. Absolutely. Well, good deal, man. This time was going very fast. I wanted to just show this picture. I mean, this is kind of going to what we talked about. Like, when we think through unsustainable development and sustainable development, I put 2 pictures here that I just grabbed from screen or from Google Images. When we see this, what do we see in between these 2 different teams here? Like, in contrasting these 2 pictures.
Yeah.
They're not wearing masks.
Yeah, nobody's wearing masks.
Yes, absolutely. I am so worried about that. Thank you.
Especially the collaboration team, the guy standing too close. No personal
That's right,
distancing
yeah.
going on.
Move back, man.
Oh, Lordy.
Wow.
I think there's definitely a difference in the environment. There's visible work that's available to be had and to be worked on in the one environment, and the other environment, there's no visible work.
Yeah. I do see a calendar, so something tells me that something's cracking the whip. Like, that's why that person's staying late.
Maybe.
I don't know, I focus on the developer wearing headphones.
Oh, yeah.
That's not collaborating and not benefiting from being in the shared space.
Yeah, they are.
You don't have to collaborate. You don't have to collaborate all 8 hours of the day. You get to go do your work.
Sometimes you need to block out the noise so you can think through the complexity of the problem and come up with a solution or possibility.
Especially in the open workspace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So what's the risk? And we highlighted just a little about, like, you know, there's a social responsibility to our team, but this person working late being the hero, like what's the risk to our solutions that we're delivering? What's going to happen? Do we think?
Did she spill coffee on it? Is that a guy? I can't tell.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah, the coffee was spilled. That's for sure.
I mean, so she's making mistakes to start with somewhere.
Yep.
Outside the code, if not inside the code.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And it's likely if you're making mistakes outside the code, you're making them in the code.
Yeah, definitely we have cognitive impairment if we stay up too late, like that doesn't help us, except for maybe finishing that term paper that we needed to do, But yeah, as I thought about this in this unsustainable development that this person's doing, number one, right, I don't see any teammates around this person, right? It doesn't allow for good collaboration or good information sharing that's sometimes needed to build a sustainable product. There, I think as well that like if we show this person who's worked late, they're going to make mistakes in the code. We've already talked about the spilled coffee, right? That's going to lead to defects and bugs in the system that team is going to have to fix and work on in the next sprint. They're going to have to prioritize that work, and then we're going to lose our grip in terms of how we deliver on future commitments. Like this decision to have an unsustainable development framework, it really does have long-term impacts, not just for like, oh, that person's evening. Like this is going to affect the entire team for sure. So who sets this constant pace? Like is it the business sponsors coming in saying, hey, we need this by such and such time, or like who is it really that should be setting the pace?
I think it's the Scrum team during planning that they decide how much work they can do over the next, well, I'm saying Scrum, but it could be any team, how much work they can do over the next iteration during their planning, iteration planning.
Yep.
If for some reason somebody says, oh, well, we really have a strong deadline, or maybe they know, some big holiday is coming up and they're going to be distracted by things, then they set, adjust what they're planning for that iteration.
Yeah, and do we think that pace is going to be the same throughout like the whole quarter? Do we anticipate it? Oh, hey, we're always going to deliver 40 points because that's what we've always done, or do we kind of anticipate because the team is like well rested that they could actually do more? Yeah, I think right that's a huge benefit of like that slow and steady. We talked about that with the rabbit, right? That actually over time that the development team is actually going to do better and be able to do more because they're able to. Awesome. And I do think it comes down to the users as well, right? This is an interesting principle because it does mention the end users, it mentions the sponsors, and it mentions the development team as well. And they need to be cognizant that like, hey, this is a long-term project that we're trying to deliver. Well, with our remaining time, man, I had some good Dilbert stuff to share with you all. Okay, I want to just do two more things, and really let's just talk through it. I was going to do another Padlet, but right, this is the usual suspects, and so this is helpful. And what I wanted to do is really actually focus on like these top 3 of these perpetrators that really impact Agile, right? The things that can really bring the team down, not having sustainable development. So what I'd like is just throw out ideas, because like I think us together we're going to be able to come up with some good solutions to some common problems. Like too much work in progress, like that is a huge downer to deliver consistently and having that constant pace. Like what has been some good solutions that you all have found in terms of like your WIP limit's been exceeded time and time again? Like what do you all do?
Well, if you use something like Jira, you can enforce it in the display and just, it turns, I forget what, red or something, like, if you've got too many things there in progress, more than 2 or 3 things going, then it's like, it's alarming.
Absolutely. Yeah, just setting it up in the tool that you can see it visibly, that's not done. What else has been helpful? Jeff, how about from you in terms of limiting that work in progress?
Well, let's enforce WIP limits. That's what they're for.
Yep.
And
Yes.
figure out how to help with the high priority rather than adding a new thing.
If you have your, you know, cards up on the wall, for example, of what's in progress, you can just make the space very small, and then nobody can put more than that into that space.
One thing that we found to be effective is to have a solid working agreement across our team, in the sense of like, hey, we said at the beginning of this quarter that we're only going to have five stories in doing, and if we have more than that, like either we need to, you know, again, do negotiations of what's most important, but we really tried to hold ourselves accountable to that working agreement. So that was just like, that was our fallback. Like as a product manager, I'd look around and be like, hey, product owner, help me understand this, or hey, development team, why are we pulling in all these things when we've kind of said 5 is our max, 7 is just too much context switching or what have you. So it's good. All right, so another one that really affects the team is that it's not a team-based org, that there's a lot of finger pointing of saying, oh, the architecture team, oh, the security team, like how can we help that? And so solutions or problems and how we collaborate becomes more of we statements rather than just like pointing fingers at people or different teams. Because I think that is a big downer for sustainable development.
I would have to agree. Where the organization is not team-based and there is a lot of hierarchy, there's a lot of detrimental behavior that happens and a lot of fiefdom or silo development that happens,
Yep.
which basically says, these are my resources, not the company's resources. And that's not a beneficial environment for anyone when that attitude invades.
Yeah, I mean, because you're talking a little bit about HR things. I mean, really, this is a roadblock that I've seen consistently in my career, that at times just how we're organized outside of Agile doesn't really promote this very well. Have you all had success?
Absolutely.
Breaking that down. Michael, how about you? Have you had?
So I've had this work once, and other times I've had it again shot down by the owners of those resources. But you decide on a project that you're going to do, and you ask for volunteers from all of those places. So you have the architecture team and the network team and the software team. You get 1 or 2 people to commit their time to the project, not from a back and forth point of view, but you get your cross-functional team to work the project, right? And you ask for volunteers. You go to their managers, say, look, I'm doing this special project. We want to do it a different way. Don't say Agile. Don't worry about any of that. You just say, I need to set up a standing team that can handle all the issues that this project's going to bring. And that cross-functional team takes care of those problems. And then on the back end of that, you show your results to everyone and say, hey, look, I got this project done 6 months faster than everybody thought it was going to be done. Yeah. And so why don't we keep doing this? And so I've been able to do that successfully once, and not successfully, 3 or 4 other times. But that is and it was suggested to me by somebody else that I do it that way, and it took a while to figure out how to actually do it. But it does work to break down the silos, get out of underneath HR's thumb, and just say, look, we're all working together on this project, all together, right? Which then gets rid of the blame on the left and the infighting on the right, and takes care of all kinds of other problems all at the same time. So it has worked. And that would be my suggestion, even though I failed more often than it succeeded. When it did succeed, it works incredibly well.
I think, Michael, to your point, you just got to keep pushing and trying and being innovative on how you're doing it. Asking for volunteers, that's a great idea. That's awesome. That's good. Unrealistic deadlines. Like how have you overcome unrealistic deadlines? Because this sometimes happens.
Just say no.
Say no. Yeah.
Just say no.
Or you say, well, we can do it at this time or something, right? No one likes to be told no.
Well, right. So we already know, right? We should already know as Agilists, right? You look at the backlog. We've already kind of given it an estimate. We know it's going to take 6 months. No, we can't do it in 3 months. Which feature, right? Pick half of the features. Which half do you want in 3 months? We'll give you half in 3 months. If you really need this product in 3 months, what do you want? So, yeah, just say no. Don't accept the deadline.
Yeah, for me, a big key to that is having that well refined backlog. Like if it's messy, and if it doesn't make a lot of sense, if it's not really paid attention to, you can't have a very logical discussion with the business partners as you go about that. That to me is a key component for it.
Do you guys find? Oh, sorry. A good question here. Do you guys find being like very transparent about milestones is helpful? So, for example, let's just say that the business owner says, "I need the completed product by, in 2 weeks," and instead you break it down by saying, "Okay, we can have this component done by the original deadline. Following that, the next within 2 weeks of that, we'll have this next component, and then 2 weeks after that, this third component, so that by X date, everything you asked for should be completed, but it won't be done in 2 weeks."
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a good way to point it out. But again, to Roland's point, you have to have a team that already has the backlog pretty well defined and estimated in order to have that conversation. Coming in and asking a development team to do something in 2 weeks, it takes, for something big, it really takes 2 weeks to even begin to plan it in any kind of a meaningful way before you even start work. And I know, Agile doesn't do planning a lot, or they don't call it planning, but that's really what it is you're doing your budget and timeline estimates, or at least your timeline estimates, so that you can give back to the business, a date to say, what you've asked for right now, we think we can do in 2 months, 6 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But and again, milestones is not a word that Agilists like to use. And so again, it's the user stories, it's the particular features that the customer wants to have in the final product. Those are, again, what you deliver on the sprints, right? The pieces and parts of those features and functions that get put into the software that you can track. And with your collaboration back in your values, right? Number 3 on your values, if you're collaborating every week and every 2 weeks on the sprints and what you're outputting and what's going into it, you'll have much happier customers, which could include internal management as well as happy developers.
Taking a large project and trying to break it up into smaller chunks doesn't actually change the amount of work to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it makes it easier that first part to focus, but it doesn't change the amount. I'm all for focusing in on the high priority stuff, but just introducing milestones into a big project has not saved any work anywhere.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
And one thing to think about is to continually refine the backlog based on value. Like if you're working on a feature, let's say that they want a calendar, for example, and you implement some sort of very simple calendar, and they want everything, but they'll be happy with these 3 things that you put into the calendar, then maybe that's enough. Maybe you can go on to the next thing and don't do everything. It's very easy for everybody to say, I want everything, but it's a different thing to actually code everything in the timeline that they want. So changing your or focusing your backlog on value is the key thing.
Great. team, we are already at time, and this time that we were able to be together really went fast from my side. We had 2 goals at the beginning of our sprint. Sorry, I didn't kind of move through our quasi backlog into doing and done, but really we had goals of learning more about Principle 8 and learning some maybe new techniques or some ways to implement Principle 8. From a fist to 5, do we feel like that we were able to accomplish that first goal? Go ahead. Yeah, show me. Okay. There we go. 4. Okay. Good deal. Awesome. 4-ish. Awesome. Good deal. And then our second goal was to have some aha moments, either some aha moments that I learned something or maybe my experience can help, person X. Do we feel like we reached that goal as well? Fist to 5. All right. 4-ish. Okay. Hey, Jeff, I always love that there's room for improvement. That's good. Thank you. Okay, and now my dog's, I guess, telling me that it's time to go. But I do want to end with Dilbert because I think we could learn a lot from this Dilbert cartoon, right? And maybe you guys have already seen this, but right? He's going to talk, his boss is going to espouse the virtues of having these stand-ups, right? And it talks a little bit about Agile and what we're trying to accomplish. And are we really solving problems, or do we need to change some of the culture? So I'll end there. Let you all read that. I don't have a good Dilbert voice. Okay. So as I read that, it just said to me, like, little bit by little bit, that's how we're going to make an agile transformation within ourselves, whether it's on how we work on our cars, whether that's how we work with our business and technology partners, right? Across many different cross-functional teams. It just takes time. It takes patience. It takes those retrospectives to only get better. And with Principle 8, it involves everybody from the sponsors to the users to the developers. Like, that's who we got to bring together. So thank you all for just taking the time this evening. I know we went the full time, so I really appreciate everyone also being willing to share, not just your time, but willing to show. It really made, for me, a very impactful and a good meeting. So thank you all very much. And I just wish you all good night. And Neil, if you're open to it, and maybe if the team's open to it, can we show the contacts of the attendees? Maybe there's some follow-up, maybe there's some additional networking that maybe people want to do. Is that possible if people feel comfortable sharing out those details?
Sure.
Okay, I feel good about that as well. So yeah, feel free to, and if you have any questions, ping me afterwards.
Actually, maybe a good way to do it is to just put them on the Padlet board.
Okay.
If you're comfortable sharing them there.
Yep. Yeah, share that yeah, if you just go back to that Padlet link that I sent to you, add it there, and I'll send out you guys already have the link, and then you can just see those resources there. So again, thank you all for your time, and hope to see you at the next meeting.